Good evening. My name is Ron Monk. I work for a consulting engineering company called Carr out of Vancouver, Canada. I've been hired by Prophecy Platinum, and Neil will talk about that in a minute. But I've been hired to evaluate the transportation options, logistics for a Wellgreen mine. That includes both concentrate and resupply to the mine. The main obvious ports are Haines and Skagway. We're in the process of evaluating the pros and cons of those two options. I can tell you based on sampling today that Haines is already ahead on things like distance and coffee. The coffee's better here. There's intangibles like this that matter. But the other really important things are the infrastructure that exists at the ports is important. And so in terms of the sorts of information that I need to advise my client on the decision that they'll take on this, it would be super helpful if I had the contact information of most of the people here, because I need to talk to them about things like the highway. What is the timing of the bridge? Neil and I went out to the bridge today and had a look at it, and so we're interested to know what is the commitment there in terms of when that changes, because that affects what the loads, how big the loads could be. And in terms of the economics, heavier, bigger loads means less trucks, and that helps with the choice. So that's an important factor. I'm also very interested in what the plans are with respect to the port. The port can handle containers today. The port here cannot handle bulk materials in a very effective way. And so we're very interested with respect to what the plans may be there. And we are evaluating bulk hauling of ore and also bags. So basically, I was realizing I was going to say 1 cubic meter bags, but I realized I needed to convert that into 35 cubic foot bags for use. So anyways, bags that are about this high, this wide, and so on. And those can be put on flatbed trucks or in containers. So those are the options that I've been asked to evaluate, and I will prepare a report for Neil, and he and his company will make a decision about the transportation of logistics.
Thanks, Ron. My name is Froc. I'm project manager with Prophecy Platinum, and I'm here just to make sure that Ron's not just drinking coffee. Hopefully he's drinking coffee with you. One of the things that's kind of unique about the project we have up in Wellgreen, which is up by Burwash Landing, is that we're getting a lot of momentum and a lot of traction right now, and a lot of other people are not. And one of the main reasons for that is we're primarily a nickel mine. But one of the things that we have the uniqueness is that we're a nickel mine, but we've been very blessed with the ability to have a lot of platinum, palladium, cobalt, and copper as well. And some of the recent developments we've got is we put out a scoping level study that looks very, very promising and encouraging. And so we're starting to put a team behind that to take this to a pre-feasibility document. And part of that pre-feasibility document is to look at all the options that are available to bring product in for construction, et cetera, and also to take product out. And we've got a very hungry Asian market that's looking at nickel and cobalt as well. But now things are starting to pick up, as you've probably all seen in South Africa with the problems they have with their platinum mines, et cetera. So the platinum is becoming a very big target now for a lot of Japan, Korea, and the Asian market, and also for Europe as well now. So we're working hard to put that document together, and we hired guys like Ron to come and look at all the logistics and where we can move material. So that's the main reason we're here. What we're looking at is we've got a very aggressive program lined up for next year to do enough drilling that we can take this thing in early 2014 to a pre-feasibility document. And those typically are the studies that move that from a resource to a reserve. And as soon as you start dealing into the bankable levels, that's where things start to get a little bit more serious. So what we're doing is we're sort of, we're on a scouting mission now is mainly what we're looking for. So we want to thank all you guys who've been very, very hospitable today and showing us around and showing us the pros on being here. I haven't met any cons yet. Okay, so I'm encouraged by that, but I'm sure if I go to Skagway, I will.
I'm Paul Metz with the Department of Mining and Geological Engineering at the University of Alaska in Fairbanks. And for the last nearly decade, I've been working with the Alaska Railroad, folks from Yukon Territory, Residue, Yukon government, on feasibility studies for the extension of the Alaska Railroad. First studies were done for the Defense Department looking at extending the railroad from Allison Air Force Base to Delta Junction, and then the second phase of that, the extensions from Delta Junction on to Yukon and British Columbia to eventually connect the Alaska Railroad with the rest of the North American grid. Just a few comments with respect to that. These investments in the extension of any railroad are usually investments that are made for a very long time frame. Railroads are built for 100-year lives, and so are ports. And for both to be efficient, they need to be combined. Railroads efficiently haul heavy equipment and very low unit value commodities. And some of these have to be transported by rail. Iron ore, coal, generally Portland cement in most locations, and other industrial minerals, sand and gravel, etc., are transported by rail rather than by truck because the transportation costs are much, much smaller. In a recent evaluation of the extension of Alaska Railroad North from Fairbanks to Livingood, we found the trucking costs were about 50 cents a ton mile for that 70-mile stretch of road north of Fairbanks, paved road. A similar estimate for the transport of material both to Livingood and products south to the port were between 3 and 6 cents a ton mile. So you can look at nearly an order of magnitude difference in cost of transportation. So if the mining industry is going to develop in Yukon, northern BC and Alaska, away from tidewater, it's going to need bulk transportation capabilities, railroads. In addition to that, of course, a very large cost of mineral development, as Representative from Yukon pointed out, is the cost of energy. And 60% of the cost of mining is energy. And so these transportation systems have to be looked at in terms of transportation corridors that can carry power and energy, from gas, oil, products, as well as the transportation of products in and out. The work that we've done initially was reported in 2007, and for the first time there was a business case made for extending the Alaska Railroad onto the North American rail grid. And that was based essentially on the transportation of iron ore from the Crest iron deposit, or we should say the iron occurrence, to tidewater ports. And the worst case scenario was the port at Point McKenzie. It would have made much more sense to transport that iron ore to Haines. The issue, of course, is the development of a rail here to provide that transportation link. Our current studies have focused on looking at that long-term freight haul. We can't build a railroad for one mine generally. There are some exceptions to that. We have to look at the long-term transportation requirements. In order to do that, we need to look at all of the mineral resource potential in a region. So we look at the resource potential of Alaska based on the Alaska Research Data Files. There's over 7,000 known mineral occurrences in Alaska. The Yukon mine files have about 3,000 records, and the BC mine files north of Prince George, about 16,000. So over in these three regions, there's over 23,000 known mineral occurrences. Not all of these are going to be mines, but more of them will be mines if we have bulk transportation systems and ports capable of exporting those commodities.
Good evening. My name is Bruce Carr, and I'm the strategic planner for the Alaska Railroad, and I think you can all agree that I've trained Paul very well. I'm just going to echo a couple of his comments. All successful bulk natural resource ports have a railroad with them. And Paul's comments are bang on. As you move further and further away from tidewater, you have to have the ability to move all of that heavy equipment, heavy items that go into making a mine successful. What I'm here to offer you, Dave, and the rest, and to thank Bill for inviting me as well, is the expertise that the railroad has. We own and operate two ports in South Central, Seward and Whittier. We, of course, start at the Port of Anchorage, and we still continue to serve the Port of Anchorage. We have waterfront property in Valdez. We operate out of the ports of Prince Rupert and Seattle. We know ports. We know what ports and railroads do together. So the important thing is that you look at how you're developing your port, and what we can do is offer that to you. We also have experience in working with mines. We support Fort Knox mine in the Fairbanks area. We've been doing that since they opened up. You can't have heavy-duty mines without railroads. You really can't. So what I would ask that I offer you is that you all simply recognize and keep that in mind. As part of your development process goes on, as part of your comprehensive plan goes on, always have in mind that someday you're going to have that railroad and have that transportation corridor developed in such a way that you can put in roads, railroads, utilities, fiber optics, you name it, you got to have that corridor. In today's environment of environmental documentation, though, you do it once. And that way, when you have that corridor, you don't have to go back and do it again. So my suggestions to you all is keep in mind you're going to have a railroad. And when you're ready to do that, we're ready to come and help you. So thank you.